In this training module, I'm going to show you how to fill out the provisional cover sheet form. This includes listing inventors, your entity status, and a few more things. By the end of this training module, you should be able to save your completed provisional cover sheet form in a format ready to file with the Patent Office. Let's get started. On the screen, you'll see that I've already pulled up the Provisional Application for Patent Cover Sheet form. This is the form that we downloaded previously from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website. I've gone ahead and filled this out for my provisional patent application on the hinged storage stand. So to begin, you'll need to fill this out and list all of the inventors who you've determined are inventors for your invention in the provisional patent application. And for each inventor, you'll just simply list the first name, you can put the middle name if you want to, the family or last name, the city in which that person resides, and this would be for their home, not for their work, and the state in which they reside. You can also list the country if you want to, but it's not required. All of the fields that are outlined in red boxes, those fields are required. The fields that are not outlined in red boxes, like the middle name or the country here, are not required. So you can know exactly what you have to fill out and what you don't have to fill out if you don't want to. If you have more than one inventor on your provisional patent application, you can click this Add button and add more inventors, as many as you need to, listing the same information for each one. If you accidentally add too many lines, more than the number of inventors that you actually have, you can click the Remove button to take off the last line. For the title of the invention, you can simply go to your provisional patent application and copy and paste the title from there onto this form. In my case, it's the hinged storage stand for yard tools. And I'm going to flip over to the provisional patent application draft that I've got, just so you can see that draft in its final form. The previous versions that you saw had a lot of colors on them, designating where the text came from and such. Here I've done some final formatting, and I'll go through really quickly exactly what this looks like so you can see it. You can see in this final draft that I've simply highlighted the title, and that's what I've copied and pasted over into the provisional patent application cover sheet form. You'll also notice that I've rearranged many things, I've consolidated some things, I've deleted the sections that we aren't using and that I don't want to include, and I've made all of the text in this document black. The other thing that I did, which I always do, is take a last opportunity to read through my draft for any spelling errors, any clarifications I could make, anything that will make my patent application just a little bit better. The good thing that does is it gives you a chance to read it one more time from a new perspective, having gone through the entire process, all of the steps of the drawings, the specification, the claims. What you'll find is that there are usually more mistakes in there than you think that you had when you were drafting, and that's perfectly fine. You'll also find probably that there are a few more things that come to mind, either things that you remember that you had thought about at one point, or things that come to mind for the first time about your innovation. So if you read through this draft and you were to compare it with the other drafts that I had previously, or perhaps when you read those drafts already, you noticed a few minor errors. I've gone ahead and corrected those errors here in the final draft prior to filing. I've also added a few more things. Also, if you notice that the last draft ended with figure 10, then you'll notice that this draft has some additional figures in it. I'll show those to you in just a minute. But what I did, like most innovators, is I was reading through this, I wanted to clarify a few things, and I started thinking about how a drawing would really help to clarify one concept, and then that led to a couple other drawings about different types of hinges that I could use, and how those might be better to manufacture, easier, cheaper, those types of things. And before too long, I had spent another half an hour drafting some drawings, putting together some description, and finalizing my application. It's to the point now where I don't think I need to do any more of that. It's possible that something else might come to mind, and if something very valuable were to come to mind, I would go ahead and include that now. But I don't want to spend a lot more time on something that might be trivial or minimal to the value of the patent application at this point. So if you remember, this is figure 10 that we added after we drafted the claims, because it brought to mind some different implementations that could be useful. Now, after doing my final review of my patent application, I wanted to clarify one thing I had said in the description that I provided with Figure 10. It was about how the panel combined against the tool handle, and how the edges or the sidewalls of the holes through my panel might be slanted in different ways to bind at different points against the tool handle. This might be overthinking it, but it came to mind and I included it before, so I wanted to clarify it here because I don't think it was as clear as it could have been when I included it in the description of Figure 10 initially. And you can go back and look and see how I simply referenced Figures 11a and 11b in that same paragraph very briefly. After that, for whatever reason, I started thinking about the hinges again and how the hinges might be different than what I had shown. I'll admit I never really loved the alternative hinge drawings that I provided up above. These ones, however, I think are much more simple, much more viable, probably a lot cheaper to manufacture, and probably will operate better. So there's some simple hinge drawings and description that I've provided now for a few different types of alternative hinge arrangements. You'll see these in Figure 12a and 12b for one embodiment, and Figure 13 for another similar embodiment, and then in Figure 14 for one final embodiment. I think I like 14 the best, but it doesn't really matter. This is simply to give me some breadth in the scope of my patent application, given that these additional embodiments easily came to mind during the final reading of my patent application. Getting back now to the provisional cover sheet form, I went ahead, in my case, because I've filed different patent applications in the past, and I listed a docket number, which is simply a sequential number for me as to how many patent applications I've filed. So this is my 16th provisional patent application that I've filed on different inventions. I imagine some of you in the future will have many, many more patent applications than I've done so far. From here, we're going to go down and we're going to list a correspondence address. Now, I, as an attorney, would normally fill out the address corresponding to a customer number. A customer number is simply a number on file with the patent office that is already correlated with a specific patent attorney and serves as a very shorthand indication as to who is listed for the correspondence address or who the correspondence, the letters and such, will be sent to when that time comes. Unless you have your own customer number or you're filing through an attorney, you'll be using the firm or individual name option. And here you simply fill out the information for where you want the correspondence from the patent office to be sent. This will list an individual or a company and their address. So here I've simply listed my name, I've put the address of my law firm, I've put the city, the state, I've put the postal code, and I've put the country. I've also put my phone number for my office. The next part is to indicate whether or not there was government funding involved in the development of this invention. In this case, there was not, so I simply click No. If, in your case, you received government funding or you had government support of some sort, then you may be required to check one of these boxes below, in which case you would fill out the appropriate government agency, government contract number, or government funding designation. Otherwise, simply check the box that says No. After that, if you want to assert small entity status or micro entity status, you'll need to select those boxes here. By default, this No box will be checked, and you'll be checking either small entity or perhaps micro entity status. And we'll go over in another training module what the micro entity status means and what's required for it. It's a separate document. In my case, I don't qualify as a micro entity. I do qualify as a small entity. And since that gives me a reduction in the fees that are required to file this patent application, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that and get that reduced filing fee. Lastly, before you go ahead and sign this document, make sure you read the warning here. The information that's provided in this document eventually could become public information. And so they're simply warning you not to provide any personal information here if you don't need to. You are required to provide what's outlined in the red boxes. But other than that, you shouldn't and are not required to provide any personal identifying information. Once you've read through that and you're comfortable with it, go ahead and sign the form. It's very convenient because you can sign this electronically using the format that I've got here. It's simply your name or whatever words you want to be your signature in between two forward slashes. So a / Jeff Holman, and then a /. That's my signature, and that's common with the Patent Office. It makes it very easy now to sign documents. If you fill this out in Adobe Acrobat or in another commonly used PDF editor, then you shouldn't have any problem doing this right in the document and saving it right there. Here you can enter the date. If you see here, there's a drop-down box. You can simply scroll, or you can click on the today's date and it will put that in there for you. And then simply type in your first name, your last name, and if you happen to have a registration number, which you probably don't, then you can put that there. A registration number is exclusive to a registered patent agent or a registered patent attorney, someone who is authorized to represent other people before the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So you'll probably leave that blank unless you are a registered agent or a registered patent attorney. There is one more page here. It's simply a privacy statement. It goes over some of the information we already talked about in more detail, that you're cautioned not to provide any personal information that you don't want to be made public and that's not required in the forms. Once you've filled this out, because this is the form fillable version of the cover sheet, you can go ahead and just save it as a document, and we'll use that document to file directly in the electronic filing system. That's it. You should now be able to fill out and save your provisional cover sheet form, so you're ready to file your provisional patent application.